Hi guys, welcome to Code Explode. In this video we're going to learn about one of Python's most powerful features called list comprehension. We can use it to make our code more concise and easier to read. So let's get into it. So in other programming languages you may have come across two functions called map and filter. Now these two functions are incredibly useful, especially when combined. So the designers of Python decided to combine these two functions together and make the syntax of them very compact and concise and easy to read. And they called this new feature list comprehension, also known as generators. So how does it work? Well, we have a list here. These square brackets mean that we're creating a new list, and the list is called L. So if we wanted to create a list comprehension for this list, it would look something like this. Okay, so this looks a bit weird, but what does it mean? So it's best to read list comprehensions from right to left. So we can see the outside is two angle brackets, so we're going to create a new list. The output of this will be a new list. This is the input to the list comprehension. This is our list up here. And this can be anything in Python that's enumerable. This is just simply a name to call our variable. It doesn't really matter. We could call this anything. We're just saying that in this instance we're going to refer to this as E. So it's going to go through this list. It's going to take each element. It's going to call the element E, and then this is the output expression. So the output list, this list here, is going to return the result of this for each of the inputs. So I know that sounds maybe a bit complicated, but it's easier if we just show you an example. So for starters, let's just print what we have now. So what we've got is the old list, because this doesn't change anything, this just returns E. So the new list is identical to the old list. But this isn't particularly useful, so let's do something else. Let's put E times 2. So the list comprehension will go through the list, and for each element, it's going to evaluate this expression here. What does this expression do? Well, it doubles each element. So now let's have a look at the result. And we can see that this list here is the same as this, apart from each element has been doubled. But this here, it can really be anything you like that's valid Python. We could turn this E into a string. We can concatenate it with another string. And now let's look at our output. So we've got content 1, content 2, content 3. So the output list doesn't have to match the type of the input list. It can be anything you like. It can be, I could create new classes here. Anything, any valid Python can go here if it returns something, and then that new list will contain a list of those things that you've created. So this is essentially equivalent to a map function in other languages. But list comprehension can also filter elements as well. So let's see how that works. So the syntax is very similar, but we put a filter on the end here. So in this example, this expression here says, is this element even? So this comprehension here will say, go through this list here, and for each element, evaluate this expression, but only if this is true here. So let's run this here. And you can see that we get 2, 4, 6. Only the even numbers. So the number of input elements doesn't have to equal the output elements. It will if you don't put this. But with this, then you can filter the elements and you can map them into something else at the same time, which is incredibly powerful because you do this in programming a lot. If you wanted to make this a bit tidier, we can also do this. We can also add another if expression. So this is saying if it's an even number and if it's greater than 2. Let's try that. Sorry, we don't need that there. Okay, and then we just get 4 and 6, and you can see this is a lot easier to read. A lot of people don't realise you can do this, and you get these massive long list comprehensions which look horrible. So if you've got quite a complex list comprehension, it's best to break it over multiple lines. So just to make sure that we completely understand list comprehension, I'm going to show you what this would look like if we didn't use list comprehension and just use standard Python. So let's start with our list. Now with list comprehension, we will do it like this. This is essentially doubling each item in our list and creating a new list. But if we weren't going to use list comprehension and we were going to do it in a more procedural way instead of a functional way, this is functional, this is procedural. So we'd have to do something like this. So you can see that this is functionally equivalent to this, but you can see that this is a lot longer. You're having to write a lot more code, and also I think this is much cleaner. I'm not having to think like a CPU and kind of go through each line and try and think and emulate the CPU as I'm reading through it. I can just see, oh yeah, okay, I'm converting this list into a new list, and this is the output. So I think this is a bit complicated when you first see it, but when you get used to it, it will be a lot easier to read, and also it's a lot easier to type. So not only does Python List Comprehension support a list, but it also supports a nested list, or a list of lists. For example, this. So here we have a list of lists. If I format it like this, it will make a bit more sense. So it's a bit like a table. We have rows and we have columns. So how do we use list comprehension to go through this? Well, we start off by using our square brackets to create a new list, and then we say for row in matrix for E in row, and then our output will be E. So it's going to go through each row in this matrix, and then for each row it's going to go through each element, and then it will put the elements here and run this equation here, this here, to get the output. So let's check and see what this new list looks like. So as you'd expect, you've got the same numbers as we put into it, because we haven't changed it here. We've just put E, we haven't put like E times 2 or anything. But the list has been completely flattened, so we don't have a list of lists, we now just have a list of integers. And of course, if we want to, we can do something with this output variable, like times it by 2, and then when we run the program again, then we just get the same list as we saw before, but it was doubled. We can also add an if statement here, if E is greater than 6. So this is going to look at the E value, which comes directly from here. So it's going to filter out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it will only process 7, 8, and 9. So this works on this. It doesn't work on the output here. So Python will take the list, it will filter it using this, then it will map it using this. That's why we only get 3 values here, 14, 16, 18. Okay. So the last thing I want to show you today is another comprehension. So we've looked at list comprehension, and now I want to look at dict comprehension, or dictionary comprehension, which is very similar to list comprehension, but it works with dictionaries. So let's start with a list. And now we want to convert this list into a dictionary. So for a dictionary comprehension, we're going to use curly brackets, because in Python, curly brackets create a new dictionary. The format to do this is we put the key first, then colon, then the value. So if we run this program now, we can see that we've got a dictionary this time, and each item in the dictionary, the key, is the same as the value. We could say make the value into a string, and then we'd have the key as the actual number, and then the value would be the string value of the number. If we had a dictionary at the start, something like this, and now we want to process this dictionary and create a new dictionary, the syntax is a little bit weird. So we need to put a D, but we can't just do this, we need to type .items to return us an iterator that's compatible with this dictionary comprehension. And because dictionaries have 2 values for each element instead of 1, we'll have a key and a value here. And then we can put our key and our value here, and then that will create the same dictionary as we had before. Let's test it out. There you go. And of course we can do anything we like with these values. We can times this by 2, and we can concatenate something to this, and then we get a new dictionary with the key being number A, string, and then the value being the input value times 2. So that's dictionary comprehension. So that's my video on list and dict comprehension in Python. I think these are 2 incredibly useful features, and they're definitely worth putting some time into and mastering them, especially if you want to write Python in a kind of a functional style, as we spoke about previously. So yeah, thanks guys. If you got benefit from this video, please do like it. If you don't want to like it, that's cool. I'm just happy you watched it to the end. So thanks, and I hope to see you in the next one.